Hi, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to another episode in our series, 90 Years Strong, the Monroe College Story. We're very excited to have you with us today, and we're going to be talking to international students, of which I was one, and also a residence life to get some more history about the Monroe College Story. So join me today. We have Joeane Laurent, Danielle Forbes, and Denzel Daniel. And at this time, I'm going to ask each of them to give a brief introduction of who they are.
So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joeane Laurent. I am the Director of Residence Life at Monroe College. I am also a proud alum of Monroe College. I graduated here a couple of years ago with a bachelor's in business. Happy to share my story and the impact of our department.
Thank you, Joeane.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. First of all, congratulations to Monroe College on celebrating 90 years. I'm a proud alumni, Daniel Forbes. And so I have the privilege of actually being one of the first international student and a Res Life student to attend Monroe College. So I graduated from Monroe twice. So in 97 with my associate degree. And then I did go back home to Jamaica for a number of years, came back in 2003 and graduated in 2004 with my bachelor's degree. And I'm currently working in higher education, a professor of business and information technology. And I'm here in the wonderful city of Chicago.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Excellent. And I'm looking forward to having more conversation with you throughout this podcast about your experience. Denzel?
Hello, everybody. My name is Denzel Daniel. I am the Associate Director of Residence Life. I am also a proud alum of Monroe College. I graduated with both my bachelor's and master's degree. I graduated with my bachelor's degree in IT in 2018 and my master's degree shortly after in 2019. And I also an international student that was also a part of Residence Life in 2015.
Thank you so much, everyone. That was so exciting. I'm already excited to be speaking to all of you. I am also a proud Monroe alum, even though we said it a little bit at the beginning, but just to give you some of my background, like you, Danielle, I'm also in higher ed. So I graduated from Monroe College twice, once in 2005 with my bachelor's degree in business, and I stayed and continued my master's in business, along with talking about all the great things that Monroe College has done throughout the years. When I started in 2004, they told us by the time you're ready for your master's, we will have the master's. So they kept their word and they had the master's. So I was in that second cohort of students starting the master's at Monroe, and I did my MBA there and graduated. I did stay at Monroe College for a total of 13 years. So even though I graduated so long ago, I stayed there until 2017, worked with Joeane and all the amazing staff. So let's just dig right into it. And for those of our viewers, we know you're going to learn some very interesting things about Monroe today, especially us as international students. So Danielle, you have a very riveted position of being first international student, one among the first and also the first for Res Life. And we're so excited to have our two Res Life representatives here today. So to kick things off, can you share a brief overview of your journey at Monroe and how this global expansion has brought Monroe College all the way now to 90 years? Kick it off for us, Danielle.
Yes, so I believe the first year Monroe started recruiting international students was 1995. And they started in Jamaica. And so I'm home, I'm looking to study overseas. I don't know about you, but when you watch these American movies and you see the college, that kind of excites you. And so, I'm browsing through the newspaper. I think it was the Jamaica Gleaner at the time. And I saw Monroe College, they advertised this open house at this particular hotel in Kingston. And so I went to the session. And after the session, they asked to meet with those students who are interested to sort of do like an interview. And so the first persons that were there was Gersom Lopez and Anthony Allen. And so Mr. Allen, his first words to me were, and I still remember those words to today, he was like, when he shook my hand, he says, you're going to be a great leader. And so that in itself inspired me. And so went through the application process, started the fall of 1995. Never traveled outside Jamaica before, my first time. I was picked up at the airport by, I think it was Nelson Morales.
Wow.
And I think there's another guy too, Terry. I don't know if you guys know Terry. He's from Trinidad originally. I think he now lives in Florida. And so at the time, again, this was the first time they recruited international students. So there weren't any dorm or housing. And so for the first few weeks, I stayed in a hotel in Mamaroneck. I think that's what it's
Wow.
called, that little
Yeah,
town.
Marinette, yeah.
And then afterwards, two young ladies joined me staying there. But there were 7 of us in total at the time. So 4 people were staying with family members until they kind of get the housing thing situated. 3 of us were staying at that Mamaroneck motel, myself and 2 of the young ladies. All right. So the 7 people who started, it was 4 boys, or young men rather, myself, we had Dotson Bandu, Michael Fairweather, Robert Mills, and then the young ladies, we had Nicola Pinnock, Nicole Scott. So those 2 were the ones staying with me in the motel. And then we had Marcia Williams. So those were the 7. I often refer to ourselves as the Magnificent 7.
Great memory, remembering all the names.
Yeah. And so the first house in Res Life, right? So it was a house and Prospect. I think it was 34th Prospect Avenue or something like that. That was a house, and we all were there in the house. So it was co-ed, of course. We both young ladies and guys together. It was a great experience. And I think at some point they had this professor, I think she had taught like English, Donna Spalter. And so they got her to be either a mentor or overseer for the people if we
Yes.
have questions and so on to relate to us. And so, yeah, that's how the housing got started. And then now when I visit Monroe and I see how many buildings, in fact, at some point I did start working in Res Life. That's when I came back. I became an RA. And my last title there before moving to Chicago, I was a Res Life director. And yeah, also, I need to mention this as well, that we started the Monroe Observer paper.
Wow.
So Robert Mills, a very talented guy. And so he came up with this idea. And so Miss Young, I don't know if you guys know Miss Young, the English teacher.
I remember, yes.
Yes.
So she
Still
helped
here.
us. So we started a whole bunch of stuff.
I'm very excited to hear this, Danielle, because I always thought that I knew so much, but you're teaching me so many things that I don't know now. But I mean, I did come a little bit right after you in 2004, so this year, this calendar year for me is 20 years. And because I stayed on with the institution for 13 of those 20 years, I was able to see all the growth, the progression, and the expansion of buildings and new majors, the masters, the culinary arts that was mentioned earlier. When I started Monroe, that area where we have the culinary arts was where we did homework. You know what I mean? So I'm excited. This is great. We're going to get into it a little bit more. And you started answering some of the other questions already. So my next question for you would be, can you tell us about your experience studying at Monroe and how it impacted your life since then?
Okay, so when I started Monroe, just in New Rochelle, that is, because there's a Bronx campus, which wasn't big at the time either in comparison to what it is now. So Monroe was that main hall building. That was it. And they only offered an associate degree at the time when I started. So I started in business because in high school from the Caribbean, I'm not sure how it is in your country, but in Jamaica, when we get to the 9th grade in high school, we have to say what we want to pursue. And then we kind of pursue those in the 10th and 11th grade. So I wanted to do business. And so I started out in business at Monroe College. And so for your major, you have to take a computer class. And so I was taking this introductory computer class with Jeffrey Donovan.
Yes, he taught me too.
And so he realized that I was good at the computers. And he suggested to me, he says, Danny, because they always call me Danny. He says, Danny, why don't you pursue IT? IT is going to be this big thing. And so I switched my major to computers, and I'm glad I did. Of course, I went back to business later on, and so I'm able to use both. But my educational experience was great. One of the other things I like about Monroe, you have that personal family feel, right? The teachers, or the professors rather, they took care, they learn about you. I was impressed with President Jerome, Mark Jerome, who was the VP at the time. He knows every single student's name, and that impresses me. So that family atmosphere, people care about you, the staff, and I've developed great friendships to even today. I still have friendships with a number of people I've met at Monroe College. And I'm a Monroe College in my heart. I
Yes.
see you wearing the Monroe College color,
Oh, I had to. I had to.
navy blue and yellow. But it was a great experience. And so not only experience in the classroom, but I used to work there as well part-time. And so through that experience, I've garnered some professional experiences. And so I'm able to use that today, adapt it in my current working environment where, I take that time out for the students that I serve and professionally help me with soft skills and things of that nature. So it has been a great experience. And so that has provided me with the platform or foundation that greatly impacted my life and made me the person that I am today.
Very good. It's so exciting. I'm listening to you and I'm thinking about myself and my own experience. I'm also from Jamaica. And when you started out, you had 7 students. And Denzel and Joanne, I know you're excited and I know you're listening to me and Daniel just going off and off about our experience. But believe me, we're coming up on the residential life questions. And for our podcast viewers, I hope that you're enjoying this 90-year strong Monroe College story. For those of you who are current students or prospective students, this just goes to show you the impact that Monroe has had and is continuing to have. So this is very exciting, Daniel. That was some really great information. I came to Monroe College right after you. You came up, it was 7 of you. And by the time I got here in 2004, we had 28 students from my college alone, Monroe College. So as time went on and Monroe progressed, now we're at 90 years strong. This Monroe College story has just continued to evolve for the better. So 2 years ago, and Joanne, you could correct me if I'm wrong, the Jamaica Gleaner reported that we had about 70 graduates from Jamaica just for that year alone, right? So it's from 7 to 70. And those were just the graduating students, not necessarily the number of students enrolled. So we'll get into this a little bit more, the St. Lucia campus and just how Monroe has continued to evolve. But I'm so happy to be able to speak with you about this, Danielle, to just show the trajectory of how Monroe College went from getting 7 students from Jamaica to all the different countries. Even myself, I was instrumental while I was working in international admissions to even launch Asia operations with Gersom Lopez, who's still there, right? So all these names you're calling, Professor Donovan, Anthony Allen, he's not there anymore, but he also was the person who interviewed me. So this is such an exciting time to just talk about Monroe's history and to see the people that were there from in the 80s, 90s still there. And those who left by retirement, they just had such a great impact on us. Professor Donovan taught you. He also taught me. So very exciting times. Joanne, I want to just pass this next question on to you. Could you describe the role of the Residence Life Department in supporting the transition of international students? And how has it evolved over the years? So Daniel spoke about the hotel before they got to the house, and now we have huge residential halls. So can you just give us a little history of how you support the transition of international students and how residential life has evolved through the years?
Sure. So I can definitely say, like any student, whether it's a local student, a commuter student, an international student, I think that college is a huge transition. But I think it's a bigger transition for international students. I think when you think about coming from a tropical island, and then on certain days, it's like a negative number, that in itself is a huge transition. But I always tell students residing on campus is an experience that no one can compare to. And I know that Denzel can add to that. But I think when we think about what we offer for our students, and I think Daniel mentioned it earlier on, and it's something that I appreciated as a student myself years ago, is that family feeling. You go into the student services office, they're not saying, "Hi, how are you?" It's like, "Hi, Joanne, how are you doing today?" Everyone takes that opportunity to know you by name. And with our students on campus, especially our international students, we do have an international club on campus, so that even though they're from different countries, that thing that they have in common is that everyone here is for the same goal. They're studying abroad, trying to make a difference, not only for themselves, but for their family. So on campus, based on the options that we provide for the students, they're not only able to meet other international students, but they meet local students, and that kind of helps them with like the cultural adaptation. So based on the offerings that we do, the students do have a great experience on campus. And yes, it's home away, but it's a home away from home for them.
Very nice. Very nice. I agree with you. I'm not sure, Daniel, you were talking about the expansion of the different clubs, but I remember when I was a student at Monroe, we had SIFE was one for business, and I was a business major. But oh, by the way, just so anybody that's listening knows, that year when we won SIFE, we were featured on the Kellogg's cornflakes box. So just you can go back and look up those boxes for SIFE. But for the international club, I remember when we had the International Student Association Club, which I was a secretary for, and then we had changed it over to multicultural, so we could involve everyone. And Monroe College has just been very instrumental in making sure that everyone feels a part of. So I have a question for Denzel. How has the expansion into the different international markets changed the campus environment and enriched the cultural diversity at Monroe?
I think that's a great question, simply because when Danielle started, like you said, it was 7 students from Jamaica. And now we have students from across 6 different continents on campus. We have students from every place that you can think of. And as of right now, we house about 1,000 students. And out of that 1,000, at least 300 or 400 of them are international students. And it has completely changed the dynamics of student life. The way we do our programming has changed. We have become so much more inclusive and so much more diverse. Whereas students, in the beginning, we may have one type of student who comes in locally or from a different island, and they might be afraid that, hey, I don't think that I'm ever going to find anyone here to connect with, someone who's from the same place from me. But when they come here now, it's not even a question on whether or not you're going to find someone to connect with or someone from the same place from you, because we're recruiting from all over. And our students have such a offering of networking opportunities to meet people from, I'm from the Bahamas, and my first roommate was from Japan. So you have these different opportunities, and it has really become such a place, like a melting pot, where students from not just locally or internationally, they can all come together and really and truly form something great and have a great experience, because now they're not only learning about what people from their countries know, but people from all over the world know. And by that extension, when they go out into that real world, they have that unique experience of living and working with people from different parts of the world.
Very good. Thank you so much. So I have another question, and I'm pretty sure that this is more for Joanne and Denzel. And Daniel, I'm coming back to you a little bit, because Daniel, you got to know that this started with you, okay? This started with you. You have some bragging rights. So Joanne or Denzel, what challenges did international students face during this expansion, right? We started off with 7 students from Jamaica. We have students now from all different, like you said, 6 different continents. And how have you been able to overcome this process of expansion?
So, Joanne, you mind if I answer this?
Go ahead.
So I think the first challenge, especially when I had came in, and Danielle kind of touched on this, and he's seen the answer to this challenge already. When we started, we didn't have as much dorm offerings. We didn't have a lot of room types to select from. We didn't have a lot of places for students to stay. But since the college has grown, we have really extended our catalog of different room types, different rooming options, really enhanced our roommate selection process and the process of students coming in and deciding who they're living with and that type of experience. So I think throughout the years, our biggest challenge was finding a fit for everyone. With a diverse campus means that you have to have a diverse array of buildings and opportunities for these students to accommodate them all properly. And we've done such a great job as a college throughout this year by constantly involving in terms of the dorm rooms that we're bringing in, any of the programs that we're offering, because now students, they don't have to worry about, okay, maybe I'm not going to be comfortable living with 5 people. Maybe I don't want to have a communal bathroom. And that's something that we don't have at Monroe. We don't have communal bathrooms. Every room has its own bathroom. Every student is able to meet their roommate before they even come on campus and reach out to them and say, hey, I think we'll be a good fit together. So we've really addressed the challenge of those different rooming options and different living concerns by, one, being able to connect them before they even get here, which has been a huge part of them. 2, having the options available for them to choose from. And 3, creating intentional programming for them to have a great experience on campus when they get here.
That's wonderful. That's so excellent. So from the 7 students to thousands of students, and all over the world. I feel like I need to come back to Monroe. I need another degree to do at Monroe. This question is going to be for Danielle. Can you share some memorable moments or experiences that you had while studying at Monroe College that highlighted the international aspect of the institution? Now, remember, you are the trendsetter, okay? You're the pace setter, but Joanne and Denzel are telling us what it's like now. But something that highlighted, you mentioned watching the TV, which happened to me too, right? And seeing these institutions in the US and you want to come. So, can you tell me some memorable experiences you had that highlight that international aspect of Monroe College?
Yeah, sure. So, of course, a cultural change, right? Climate. I clearly can remember the first time I saw snow.
Me too.
So I was at the main entrance to Monroe, like I said, it was that main hall. That door across, I don't know if you guys even know this, that there was actually a mall across the street. So the person says, "Oh, Danny, snow." And I ran out literally, and I was just taking it all in, my first snow experience. Of course, coming from a tropical island, but now the cold, I've gotten so used to it because, for example, today it's 39 in Chicago, and that's like summer for me. I don't even wear a coat. So one of the challenge I did had, because we are under the British system, right? And this is the first group of international students. So in the classroom, I would write a paper and then the professor would correct my grammar. But I actually was spelling it right under the British system. So that was interesting. So while it was a learning experience for us, I think for Monroe as well, it was a learning experience. And so through us, they kind of learn how to become better at international students, admissions, res life, and things of that nature.
Yes.
I remember the parties. I don't know if they still have those parties at Monroe. I remember, well, so the thing is that we, and I'm not boasting or anything, but the international students, I think we always try to exceed academically. And so with that comes with the opportunities of making the dean's or president's list.
Yes.
And so usually there's a party for that to acknowledge your achievements. And those in itself are parties. But the ones I used to like the most were the boat rides. I don't know if they still do the boat rides in the summer or spring semester. When you make the
They do.
president's list, you go on the boat ride
We do.
around the river. And I enjoyed those experiences. And like I said, just the whole family experience, the wonderful people I've met at Monroe. Also, I had my first IMAX experience. Mr. Jerome brought a group of us down to Manhattan. And that's something else I appreciate. The leader of the college taking time out to take you out to restaurants and getting to know you. Actually, my first breakfast, I stayed in the motel that night, but Mr. Jerome was the person that picked me up and took me to a restaurant for breakfast. And he probably remember this, right? It's a little bit funny because we're from the islands, right? Of course, we have Caucasian folks who are natively from, but we never really like. And so I said this while I was having breakfast to Mr. Jerome. I was like, it's the first time I've been served by a Caucasian person.
Sir, oh, yes.
I'll say that outwardly, right? Because as tourism, we thrive on in the Caribbean. And so usually we are like serving tourists and so on. But that was a first for me, right? That was a part of my experience. That was the first time I've been served by a Caucasian person. And so I enjoy the experience. Like I said, culturally, it helps me. And as New York is like a melting pot. So yeah, I always talk about Monroe because they did kind of provide me with that. Yeah, for just about everything. American culture, higher education and things of that nature.
Wonderful. I am just really excited just listening to you and just feeling good that Monroe College has been able to continue this, right? So I just left there like I was never going to leave. And to be honest, people still think I work at Monroe College, right? I came on, I saw Joanne, and we were just going crazy. Like, wait, we have to do this podcast, but it's so exciting to see Joanne. And I stayed the 13 years, which everything that you're saying, Monroe College either still does that or has just improved on those things. We look forward to the boat rides. It definitely enhanced and highlighted the international student experience. You're scared. You're coming from the Caribbean, the hot sun. You're going to see the snow. I was in Constable Hall when I saw the snow the first time, right up there in North and Maine. And we said, it's snowing. right? Also, we did the scavenger hunts. We went to the city. We had those cameras. We wanted to take pictures. President Jerome also took us out to that restaurant in Harlem. And then when I became an international recruiter to Jamaica, which I did for quite a number of years. So I was the recruited, and then I became the recruiter for a number of years, going back to Jamaica to bring the students. I also made sure that the experience I had, I was able to impart that to the students. And we're just excited right now about 90 years strong, the Monroe College Story, where it all started. All the students who are there now, who graduated, who are going to graduate, when they see Daniel Forbes, right? And this is who it started with. This is really exciting. So, Joanne, I think I wanted to confirm, did you also come to Monroe as an international student?
No, I am originally born and raised in Dominica, but I actually transferred to Monroe College. So I was not an international student. I was a transfer student, but not international.
Not international, but from an international island. And so all of us just bringing our natural flair to Monroe, Monroe accepting it, building on it, and just continuing to flourish in this 90-year span. This is the Monroe College Story. We hope that you're all enjoying this episode of the podcast. And I do have just a few more questions, about three, then we're going to wrap it up. And for Denzel and Joanne, as directors of Residence Life, can you discuss the unique programs or initiatives that have been developed to foster a sense of community along with the international and the domestic students? So I know, Denzel, you spoke about the housing and how it's, set up. A simple thing as the bathrooms. As a person that's still in higher ed, I know how important that is for students coming in. Danielle, not sure if you saw the parking lots. Some places I used to park is now a dorm, right? So can you guys in Residence Life tell us, how have you fostered that relationship from Danielle's story when we had no dorms to now we have so many? How have you been able to just intertwine that relationship between the local students as well as the international students?
So I can start, and I know Denzel will definitely add to it. So I think one of the main reasons, when I even think about myself, one of the main reasons that I transferred is that I didn't feel a connection with my previous school. And I think connection and engagement is extremely important as it pertains to retention. So I feel like I knew that sense that I wanted to be a part of something. So I know when I transferred to Monroe College, I told myself that no matter what, I'm going to push myself to get engaged and join clubs and different organizations. And that was the best decision that I made. It definitely changed my life forever. I feel like if I didn't take that initiative to join clubs or organizations, I wouldn't be here having these conversations with you. When I think about what Denzel and I do, we work with a team of resident assistants and student activities members. And I think when you think about international students, there's a lot of restrictions when it comes to working, whether it is on campus, off campus. But something unique for us is the opportunity of them being a resident assistant. We do have resident assistants from Bangladesh. We have had students in the past from, Asia, and they add their own aspect to everything that they do. And I always say the great thing about Monroe College, it's almost like you could turn around and you could see someone who looks like you or sung like you, whoever you are. And I think with their background and kind of integrate, like meeting other students with their residents and so on, they come together and do such impactful programming that everyone is together like that melting pot. And there's not that thing that, well, I'm from this country, you're from this country, but we're community under Monroe College. So I do feel like that engagement aspect, whether it is from that resident assistant standpoint or that student activities, it kind of brings everyone together and the students just mesh. I always say that at college, and I always encourage them that the friendships that you're building now, it's going to be everlasting. So from my standpoint, just our resident assistants and that initiative that they go on to kind of create that community, it's really something that's almost kind of, sometimes it's hard to describe.
Thank you so much for that. Did you want to add anything, Denzel?
Yeah, I just want to add into what Joanne is saying. Definitely our resident assistants and our student activities team, they play a major role. And that's because we have a very diverse team. We have students from all over the world. Like she mentioned, we might have someone from Bangladesh or India or Jamaica or the Bahamas. America. And they help us lead our student life department. There's no better way to get what the students want than by having a team of students telling you what students want. So the experience tailored for them is tailored by them. So we always do a very good job of listening to our students, getting their feedback, understanding what type of programming they want, what is important to them. For example, it could be celebrating Chinese New Year, recognizing that, or even having our cafeteria accommodate our Muslim students and celebrating Ramadan. We try our best to always keep abreast of what different students need from different backgrounds in order to always make sure that we're making them feel at home, we're making them feel included, and understand that they're in a place that they're going to be appreciated and that they can really express themselves and make the experience what they want it to be.
Yes.
Very good. That's so exciting. I remember when I was a student there and we had the international club. By the way, I was not a residential life student because I did commute to Queens and I lived with family because most people from the Caribbean have a lot of family in New York. So I was one such student who had a lot of family in Queens. But I do remember when we had the international club that we switched roles, right? So we wore clothes from Asia and different things, and some of the other students, they wore clothes from the Caribbean for International Day and things like that. So we're just excited about Monroe College, the Monroe College Story, 90 years strong. Okay, so this question would probably be more for an international person, but Denzel and Joanne, as current employees, can you tell us about any initiatives that you're involved in that continue to promote Monroe College's global perspective? So again, we spoke about when Daniel started, when I started, mostly students from Jamaica, mostly students from the Caribbean. I know I mentioned it earlier, but I now know we have a campus in St. Lucia, right? That came about 2007. What other initiatives does Monroe College have in place now to continue that global outreach? And just to add again, I'm the podcast host, but I also have the experience. I remember 2008, we had a huge influx from India. Myself and two students from India started Asia operations. And just to attest to what Denzel said, we now have students from all these different continents. So what other initiatives does Monroe have in place to expand globally?
So I'll just start and let Joanne chime in. And also I wanted to add this in. And I'm happy that you mentioned you were a Monroe employee, Joanne, and I are currently Monroe employees. We're international students. And that's not just a story for us. We have a lot of employees that were international students at Monroe. And I think what Monroe does really well is that we use our students, our stories, to also, they go out there and they do recruiting. They go out and they speak, and they're speaking from personal experience. They're letting them know that, hey, I walk this. And I think now, especially with the alumni department, they've been more formalizing it more, where there's an ambassador program in place for each island in the Caribbean, and they're going to continue to expand on that, where they have representatives all over these islands because we have graduates all over the world. So we're expanding now on our ambassador programs. We're having current employees be ambassadors for this, current alum be ambassadors for these programs and help recruit and bring back to the college. And I think that's one of the major ways that we're doing this. And in terms of housing, we're also, and this is speaking into the future, we're also working on different projects to have special types of housing. For what we've seen a big growth in is our King Graduate School, our master's program, and we're getting a lot of students, and more. It's continuing to grow. We want to provide them with the best living options. So we're still doing quite a few things to continue our outreach globally. But I think Monroe has established such a good representation for itself globally. You have so much alum that have graduated, and we're starting to get to that point where, and I think this is also a part of Monroe's 90-year story, is that you probably know a Monroe grad. Wherever you go, you probably are going to meet someone who graduated from Monroe. And that has become more and more prevalent. And now a lot of the alumni are giving back to the college in form of recruiting and letting people know. And we're getting a lot of students that way as well.
So just to add to what Denzel said, and I think every time I speak to a student, especially an international student, because I am the advisor for the Monroe College International Club, and we're a very diverse club. We celebrate each other, appreciate the culture and services and so on. I always ask the students, oh, how did you find out about Monroe College? And the response is always like, oh, my aunt went here, my cousin went here, one of my best friends went there. So I always say people only give referrals for great experience. And it's like everyone is almost like an informal recruiter because that's really like, oh, you should go to Monroe College because of such that great experience. And I think we all mention it. It's just that family feeling. Everyone knows you, and there's always someone that you can connect to. It could be security, it could be someone from the maintenance staff. There's always someone that a student, like you could pass next to security, a student is having a full-blown conversation with a security officer because that's the person that they connect with. And I think it's just the culture of Monroe College. So as Denzel said, there's like many initiatives. I know that Monroe College have a lot of relationships with the various all over the world. There's great relationship. So it's just that feeling of I know someone who went to Monroe College.
Very good. So we have come to the last question. And you know, the most exciting part about this, we've all pretty much answered this question at some point. And the more we talk, the more I'm thinking, the more I remember my student experience, my staff experience, even things like Thanksgiving. I personally wrote on LinkedIn to President Jerome the other day in Thanksgiving when they were showing the pictures of all the staff members getting a pie. I'm like, I want my pie. Monroe College is just such a fantastic place, just a wonderful place. And even though we've all said it at different parts during this conversation, just briefly in about 2 to 3 sentences, because we could go on and on about Monroe, but in about 2 or 3 sentences, can you tell us what advice would you give to current and prospective international students who are considering Monroe College for their education? In any order.
So just do it. But just do
That's
it.
exactly what I was going to say.
You won't regret it. And no, I honestly said that because, as I said, like I graduated from Monroe College, that just the family feeling. You will connect with someone, but you also have to take advantage of every opportunity that comes your way. Once you do this, take advantage of every opportunity that comes your way. And don't forget to engage in some way or another, whether it is going to a student activity, whether it is attending an off campus trip, or joining some club or organization. It's going to make it much more easy with the transition.
Thank you, Joanne. Let's hear from Denzel. And I think it's fitting to leave Daniel for last,
Yeah.
even though I'm still going to have something to say, but let's go over to Denzel.
My biggest advice to any international student that wants to come to Monroe is definitely, it was going to be just do it and take it and come to Monroe. But I would say when you get to Monroe is just know that Monroe is someplace that you're not going to be just a number, that you are going to be remembered, you are going to be valued, and that this is truly a family here. And this is someplace that you're going to grow and you're going to find people to help you along this journey, and that you shouldn't think twice about becoming a part of the Monroe College family.
Thank you so much, Denzel. Danielle?
All right, thank you. I'm in agreement with everything that was said previously, but I just want to highlight one additional important aspect as it relates to Monroe College. It's affordable, right? It's quality education that's affordable. I just want to highlight that.
Yes.
Because if you compare Monroe with other institutions, with housing and everything, right, you'll never find anything that matches that affordable rate. And so I just want to highlight that. The current student, and again, I'm basing it on my own experiences because there are times, actually, in my first semester, I went back to Jamaica in like October because I miss family. So for those current students, of course, we're human beings. There's a saying that says, a bird in hand is worth two in the bush. So Monroe is family, all right? And so find those people you can connect with. And the important thing is to get out and socialize, make it a meaningful. There are going to be days when you feel like quitting, but just stay the course. I promise you, all these sacrifices will worth it. Okay. I've never been to Harvard or Yale, but I work with students from Harvard and Yale with my Monroe education. And so it puts me on par or even above in terms of what I know and what I can do with my Monroe education. Okay. To future students, don't even look anywhere else. Monroe is it. Okay. And so, as someone mentioned earlier, you're not just a number. And I just spoke earlier through my own experiences that people know you by name. The president know you by name. And so that trickles down to everything else. I remember one time, I forgot to mention this as well. I don't remember what I was sick and I didn't attend class. Just call me and find out what's going on. What happened to you while you missed class today? So these little things are meaningful,
Yes.
right? So it's affordable tuition. It's a great decision. You'll never regret it. So just forget every other college options, and Monroe is the place for you. You'll never regret it. And that's my advice.
Wonderful. Thank you. With all of those amazing things, I don't even think I have anything to add, but I will say, as someone that not only graduated from Monroe and stayed in higher education, for current students, don't give up, stay the course because you're really with the best. For prospective students, this is definitely the place to be, just like what everybody else is saying. As a person that got so much out of Monroe and was able to do every type of admissions at Monroe, international, local, transfer. I've done every single thing in admissions at Monroe. That has prepared me to be successful right now. So I'm an assistant director of admissions at a prominent university in another state. I'm just like Danielle in another state. And every time when they wonder where I came from, apart from being authentically me, where I came from, where I got my experience from, where I studied, it's definitely attributed to Monroe. So, like Danielle said, you're going to be on par with students from Yale, from Harvard, because you are exposed, you are nurtured. And one of the best things that, not sure if any of the other panelists said, the size of the institution matters. So, if as an international student, if you're coming to the US for the first time, this is home away from home. This is family. This is where you will be able to get your start and then move forward, right? So there's an institution that I work with closely that their motto I'm going to borrow just for this segment that says, start here, go anywhere. And I think that's what Monroe embodies. It's small enough, it's family, it's affordable enough for you to get your start here and go anywhere. So on that note, we're going to be wrapping up this segment of 90 years strong, the Monroe College Story. I want to thank Joanne and Denzel, who are current employees working in housing and residential life, and Daniel, the Daniel Forbes, first among the 7 students from my beautiful island of Jamaica. I don't know, we need to get the numbers on when we came, but I know rapidly after you set the pace, Daniel, we came right behind you, and Monroe is continuing to be strong. So, to all our viewers, I hope that you enjoyed this segment. To the president and staff members and everyone at Monroe College, we love you. Continue to do what you are doing. And for current and prospective students, don't give up on your dreams because you're at the best place. And you are also continuing to write the Monroe College story. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We hope that you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you on the next episode of 90 Years Strong, the Monroe College Story.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for joining us, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. And again, congratulations to Monroe College on 90 years story. I just want to highlight also, next year will be 30 years since Monroe started to recruit international students. So it's 1995 to 2025, 30 years strong.
Thank you so much. See you on the next episode.